I grew up in Northeast Ohio and went off to college in 1980, and there was a large craft revival going on, particularly centered in Ohio, a lot of fiber work being done, and I just lucked into it because that's where I grew up. There was an artist in my small town. Her name was Wenda Von Wisey. She was a professor at the Cleveland Art Institute, and she was taking her paintings off of the frames, off of the stretcher bars, and she was stitching through the canvas and treating it in a whole new way. So kind of a mix, a hybrid of painting and quilting. And I was a teenager, and she would show her work in our small town in an art show there, and I was fascinated with it. So when I went off to college, I studied art, and a lot of the students there were doing fiber work. It was just a trend. It was a thing back then in the 1980s. So that kind of, it fed into what I had already been doing as a kid. I was one of those kids who fiddled constantly with a sewing machine and, put hippie panels into my jeans and, that kind of thing. And my family was like that. My dad fiddled with wood, my mom was doing decoupage and macrame, and so, it's just kind of the way I grew up. In college then, I was really influenced by an art history professor who arranged this whole women's artist series, and I went off to New York City and I apprenticed with Mary Beth Edelson, who was one of the founding mothers of the feminist art movement. And a lot of the women who were affiliated with her and she herself were working with fiber, and they were taking that traditional quilt form, but they were pushing it into contemporary art, and they were very political, and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of how I got my start. A long time. And I have a lot going. I work on many pieces at once, and then a piece will maybe kind of capture me, and I'll just kind of work primarily on that one for a while, and kind of concentrate on that. But this work that is in the show is, I started, 35 years ago, because the materials, the diapers and the dishcloths, are from that time. Those diapers that I use in this quilt are my daughter's. I have two daughters. And I knew at the time, I saved all of those materials because I knew at the time, as a young mother, it was one of the most profound things I was doing with my life. And I knew that I was going to make art about it. I didn't know what, but I saved all those materials. So yeah, my process is very lengthy. One piece can take me years. And I think often that, as in life, you're never done with a task, particularly motherhood or parenthood. And that has proven to be the case with this piece. I stitch, let it go to the side, I come back to it, stitch again, and so it's a long, slow process, with all of that intensive mending and stitching. So in this piece, I'm using a very classic archetypal symbol, that is the cross. Mm-hmm. And it refers to the intersection of body and spirit. And So this piece deals with that, but also all of my work deals with that. I'm expressing in material, in fabric, the body that we as humans experience, our very physicality, but then also that spirit, or the way we can be inspired and the way we can go beyond into something larger. Oh, well, that's a great thing, to participate in community. It can be very quiet and isolating to be working for hours and hours stitching in a studio, and so being part of the guild, being part of the community just opens that all up, and we communicate, and we're all kind of fiber nerds, and we get each other, and our obsession with fabric and buttons and threads and that kind